The bell above the door gave a gentle jingle, a sound Nathan always loved. It was like a little welcome song, just for him. He stepped inside, letting the busy world outside fade away. This wasn't just any store. It was the quiet corner, his favorite bookstore. The air inside was warm and smelled of old paper and fresh coffee, a mix that always made his heart feel happy. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, making dust motes dance in the golden beams like tiny, magical stars. Rows and rows of books stood on wooden shelves, reaching almost to the ceiling. Each spine seemed to whisper a different story, inviting him closer. Nathan took a deep breath, a small smile playing on his lips. This was his happy place, a peaceful hideaway from the day's rush. He loved the hush that filled the room, broken only by the soft turning of pages or the quiet rustle of someone shifting in a comfy armchair. He wasn't looking for anything special today, just browsing, letting the books call to him. Sometimes, the best treasures are found when you weren't even looking. He wandered slowly, his fingers trailing along the spines of books. He passed shelves filled with grand adventures, then ones with funny tales, and finally, a section with old, wise books about nature. He loved nature books, especially those with pretty pictures of trees and flowers. He found himself drawn to a corner where the light was a little dimmer, making the books there seem even more mysterious. He paused, his eyes scanning the titles. A bright green cover caught his eye, a book about secret gardens. Perfect. He reached out, his hand ready to pluck it from the shelf. But then he stopped. Right in front of the book he wanted, a man stood. The man was tall, with kind-looking eyes that were focused on a different shelf, just to the left of Nathan's desired book. He seemed deep in thought, perhaps lost in his own book-finding adventure. Nathan waited for a moment, thinking the man would move. He shuffled his feet a little, a small, polite hint. The man didn't budge. Nathan smiled to himself. It was a common bookstore dance, this polite waiting. He decided to be a little more direct, but still very friendly. He cleared his throat softly, just loud enough to be noticed. The man still didn't move. Nathan chuckled quietly. Some people really got lost in their reading. Nathan's quiet chuckle died down as the man remained still, a human roadblock between him and the bright green book about secret gardens. It wasn't a big deal, of course. Nathan could always come back later or find another copy. But something in him, a tiny spark of playful stubbornness, wanted that book now. He looked at the man again, taking in more details this time. He was taller than Nathan, with sandy brown hair that fell a little over his forehead. His jacket was a soft, worn denim, and he held a thick history book loosely in one hand, though his eyes were still fixed on the shelf opposite Nathan. There was a peaceful look on his face, a calm that made Nathan not want to disturb him too much. Still, the book called. Nathan decided to try a different tactic. He shifted his weight, letting out a slightly louder sigh, a gentle hint without being rude. The man, however, seemed to have ears only for the silent stories on the shelves. Nathan watched as the man's gaze slowly moved from one book to another, completely absorbed. It was almost like he was in his own little world, a book-filled bubble. Nathan found himself smiling again. He understood that feeling perfectly. He'd been that person many times, lost in the magic of a bookstore, unaware of anything else. He took another small step, hoping to catch the man's attention in his peripheral vision. Nothing. The man was a statue, a very polite, well-dressed, book-loving statue. Nathan considered just reaching around him, but that felt a little too forward, too much like invading the man's quiet space. This was the quiet corner, after all, a place where unspoken rules of respect and gentle courtesy were understood. He focused on a green book again. It had tiny, delicate illustrations of vines and flowers on its cover, promising whispered secrets within its pages. He really did want it. He looked back at the man. His head was tilted slightly, as if listening to the wisdom of the books. Nathan wondered what kind of stories the man liked, what worlds he got lost in. He noticed a faint scar above the man's left eyebrow, a small detail that made him seem more real, less like a temporary obstruction. The man then took a tiny, almost unnoticeable breath, and Nathan thought, "Aha! He's about to move." But no, The man just adjusted his grip on the history book, still gazing intently at the shelf. Nathan bit his lip to keep from laughing aloud. This was becoming quite the silent adventure. He knew he had to speak up. He just had to. Nathan took a small breath, gathering his courage. It wasn't really courage, just a little push to break the comfortable silence. He didn't want to startle the man, who looked so content in his book-filled world. So, with a soft voice, just loud enough to be heard over the gentle hum of the bookstore, Nathan spoke. "Excuse me," he began, his voice barely a whisper. The man didn't react. Nathan tried again, a little louder this time, a friendly tone in his voice. "Excuse me, sir." This time, the man slowly turned his head. His kind eyes, which Nathan had noticed before, blinked once, as if waking from a pleasant dream. A soft, questioning look crossed his face as he finally saw Nathan standing there. Nathan offered a small, polite smile, gesturing slightly towards the green book he wanted. "Oh," the man said, a low, gentle sound, as if surprised to find someone else in the quiet corner. He finally seemed to understand. He glanced down at his feet, then at Nathan, and then at the book Nathan was eyeing. A small, knowing smile started to form on his lips. Nathan, still holding his polite smile, decided to offer the classic bookstore courtesy. "After you," he said, making sure his voice was friendly and easygoing. He meant, "Please, you go first, move out of the way, and then I'll get my book." It was the universal signal for, "I need to get past you, but I'm not in a hurry and I respect your space." He even took a tiny step back to show he was truly giving the man room to move. The man's smile grew a little wider. It was a nice smile, Nathan thought, warm and genuine. For a moment, the man just stood there, looking at Nathan, his eyes twinkling. Nathan felt a funny flutter in his stomach. It wasn't a bad feeling, just interesting. He wondered what the man was thinking. Was he going to apologize and step aside, or was he going to say something back? The man finally spoke, his voice as gentle as Nathan's, a little deeper than Nathan expected. "After you," he said, echoing Nathan's words exactly. But the way he said it, with that twinkle in his eye, made it clear he wasn't just being polite. He was playing a game, and Nathan, to his surprise, felt a little thrill. This wasn't just about getting a book anymore. The man's "after you" hung in the quiet air, a soft challenge. Nathan's earlier polite smile widened into a genuine grin. This was much more fun than simply getting a book. The man's eyes crinkled at the corners as he looked at Nathan, a clear sign of his amusement. It was a silent invitation to play along, and Nathan found himself eagerly accepting. "Oh no, I insist," Nathan replied, his voice light and friendly. He made a small, grand gesture with his hand, as if presenting a royal pathway. "Truly, after you." He liked the way the man's smile deepened, a pleasant warmth spreading through the small space between them. The man's name popped into Nathan's head, unbidden. Chris. It just felt right, somehow. Chris, as Nathan now thought of him, chuckled softly, a low, rumbling sound that was barely audible but still felt warm. He didn't move. Instead, he just stood there, holding his thick history book, his gaze fixed on Nathan. It wasn't an uncomfortable stare, but a friendly, curious one, as if he was enjoying this unexpected moment as much as Nathan was. The bookstore, usually a place of quiet focus, now felt charged with this gentle, playful energy. Nathan shifted his weight, still smiling. "You know," he began, lowering his voice a little, "I was here first, so technically I should yield, but you have the prime real estate." He gestured subtly to Chris's position, directly in front of the green book. Chris just shook his head, a playful glint in his eye. "Ah, but I believe the principle of first observed applies," he countered, his voice smooth and calm. "You observed the book before I moved, making it, in essence, your domain. I am merely a temporary, albeit charming, obstacle." Nathan laughed, a short, happy sound. "Charming, indeed," he agreed. "But a very effective obstacle, I might add." He folded his arms loosely across his chest, settling into the standoff. It felt good, this unexpected dance of politeness and humor. It was a small, shared secret in the middle of a public place, something just for them. Chris looked at the green book Nathan wanted, then back at Nathan. His smile softened, losing a tiny bit of its playful edge, replaced by something more thoughtful. "It looks like a good one," he mused, his voice still quiet. "Secret gardens always hold the best surprises." Nathan nodded. "They do," he agreed, feeling a new connection with Chris over their shared love for books. "So about those surprises, are you going to let me get to mine?" He raised an eyebrow, a silent challenge. Chris's eyes twinkled again, and Nathan knew the game wasn't over yet. Chris's eyes still held that playful spark, a silent dare. Nathan met his gaze, a matching glint in his own. The air between them, once just quiet, now hummed with a soft, friendly challenge. Neither of them moved. It was a funny moment, two grown men standing perfectly still in a peaceful bookstore, locked in a game of polite stubbornness. A woman with silver hair, sitting in a plush armchair a few shelves away, turned a page of her book with a soft rustle. The gentle scent of brewed tea drifted from the small cafe at the front of the store. These small sounds and smells only made their quiet standoff feel more special, like a secret performance no one else noticed. Nathan felt a warmth spread through him. It wasn't just about getting the book anymore, or even about winning this silly game. It was about the unexpected connection, the shared smile, the understanding that passed between them without many words. In a world that often felt loud and rushed, this quiet moment felt important. Chris finally broke the silence, though he still didn't move. "A true test of wills, wouldn't you say?" he murmured, his voice low and amused. Nathan nodded slowly. "Indeed," he agreed, trying to keep a straight face, but a small smile escaped. "The stakes are incredibly high. A book about secret gardens hangs in the balance." Chris chuckled, a soft sound. He shifted the history book he held from one hand to the other, a small, graceful movement that didn't break his stance. Nathan noticed his hands were strong, with long fingers. He wondered if Chris played music or drew pictures. They stood there for another moment, just looking at each other. Nathan could feel the gentle tension, like a stretched rubber band that was about to snap, but in a fun way. It was a good feeling, a light, happy kind of tension. It made his heart beat a little faster. He wondered who had given first, or if they would just stand there until closing time. The green book on the shelf seemed to glow, almost inviting them to end their game so Nathan could finally claim it. He imagined the quiet rustle of its pages, the secrets it held. But for now, the secret between him and Chris felt even more interesting. He wouldn't rush this. He wanted to enjoy every bit of this unexpected, charming encounter. Chris's eyes held his, and Nathan knew Chris felt the same. This wasn't just waiting, it was truly sharing a moment. The quiet challenge hung between Nathan and Chris, a pleasant hum in the cozy bookstore. Nathan felt a gentle urge to push the game forward. He took a tiny step, just a hair's breadth to the side, almost imperceptible. His foot barely shifted, but it was enough to signal a willingness to move, to give Chris an opening to step aside. It was a subtle invitation, a polite nudge in their silent conversation. He hoped Chris would catch the hint, maybe even mirror the movement, leading to a graceful dance around the book. Chris, however, remained perfectly still. Not a twitch, not a sway. His gaze was still friendly, still holding that amused spark, but he was as unmoving as the sturdy bookshelves around them. Nathan tried again, a slightly larger shift this time, angling his body a fraction more, as if preparing to sidle past. He even let out a small, almost soundless breath, a tiny suggestion of impatience, but it was all part of the playful act. Chris simply smiled. It was a knowing smile, as if he could read Nathan's every subtle move and was enjoying the silent show. He seemed rooted to the spot, a charming, unyielding guardian of the secret garden book. Nathan felt a little burst of laughter bubble up inside him. Chris was good at this game. Very good. "You're quite the steadfast sentinel," Nathan murmured, unable to help himself. His voice was low, just for Chris to hear. Chris's smile widened, but he didn't reply with words. Instead, he made a tiny, almost imperceptible movement with his head, a slight tilt that seemed to say, "And you, a determined adventurer." He still held the history book, its pages unread, his full attention on Nathan and their unspoken contest. Nathan found himself enjoying the moment more than he thought possible. It wasn't annoying, it was charming. The quiet intimacy of their standoff, surrounded by the hushed reverence of books, felt surprisingly comfortable. He noticed the way the light caught in Chris's sandy brown hair, making it gleam. He saw the faint lines around Chris's eyes, hinting at many smiles and perhaps a few worries. These small details, usually overlooked in passing encounters, now felt clear and important. He tried one more small adjustment, a subtle lean, as if he was about to make his move for the book. He even extended his hand a tiny bit, a fraction of an inch, towards the green cover. It was a test, a final polite push. But Chris still didn't budge. He just watched Nathan, his eyes warm and amused. The game was still on, and Chris was not yielding an inch. Nathan's attempts to gently nudge Chris into moving had failed. Chris was clearly enjoying this game of polite wills. Nathan was about to try another playful remark, perhaps suggesting a rock-paper-scissors match for the book, when Chris did something entirely unexpected. Instead of stepping aside, or even just holding his ground, Chris took a small step, not away from the shelf, not to the side, but closer to Nathan. It was only a tiny movement, just an inch or two, but it changed everything. Nathan's eyes widened slightly in surprise. His playful grin softened into a look of genuine wonder. He hadn't expected that at all. The distance between them, which had been comfortable but still respectful, suddenly felt much smaller. He could now clearly see the flecks of gold in Chris's kind brown eyes and the way a few strands of his sandy hair fell just over his brow. He could even smell the faint, pleasant scent of old books and maybe a hint of fresh air from outside, clinging to Chris's denim jacket. The playful tension in the air shifted. It wasn't about after you anymore. It became something new, something warmer and softer. The closeness wasn't threatening or uncomfortable. It was simply intimate. In the quiet hush of the bookstore, with rows of silent stories surrounding them, this small step felt like a whispered secret, a shared moment that only they understood. Chris's smile was still there, but it had changed too. It was less of a playful challenge now and more of a gentle, knowing curve of his lips. His eyes held Nathan's, steady and warm. There was a silent question in them, or perhaps just a shared appreciation for the unexpected turn their game had taken. Nathan felt a blush creep up his neck. It wasn't from embarrassment, but from a sudden, delightful warmth spreading through him. The bookstore, usually a place for quiet escape, now felt like a very special, private bubble just for them. He hadn't known such a simple gesture could have such a strong effect. He stood still, not moving back, not moving forward, just letting the moment be. He felt a little breathless, but in a good way. It was a beautiful, surprising shift in their little dance. Chris hadn't broken the game. He had just changed the rules, making it even more interesting. Nathan wondered what would happen next, but he wasn't in a hurry to find out. He just wanted to savor this unexpected closeness for a moment. The soft blush on Nathan's cheeks deepened as Chris's eyes held his. It was a strange, beautiful mix of feelings, surprise, amusement, and a quiet flutter in his chest. Chris was so close now that Nathan could almost feel the warmth radiating from him. The air between them felt thick and pleasant, like a comfortable blanket. This wasn't just a friendly interaction anymore. It had bloomed into something sweet and unexpected. Nathan found himself just looking at Chris, a genuine, open smile on his face. He noticed the way Chris's dark eyelashes curled a little, and the tiny, almost invisible freckles dusting the bridge of his nose. The history book Chris still held seemed forgotten, a mere prop in their quiet play. Their game of After You had transformed, becoming a silent, shared secret in this peaceful corner of the world. He didn't feel the need to move or speak. The moment itself was enough. It was like being caught in a gentle spell, a delightful pause in time. He realized he didn't even care about getting the book right now. This new feeling, this warm closeness with a stranger, was far more interesting. It was a feeling he hadn't known he was looking for. Chris's smile stayed, soft and warm, mirroring Nathan's own. He seemed to understand Nathan's thoughts without a single word being spoken. It was a wonderful feeling, being so completely understood by someone he had just met. The quiet hum of the bookstore, the distant clinking of teacups, all faded into the background, leaving only the two of them and their shared, unspoken moment. A small sigh escaped Nathan, a happy one. He felt completely at ease, even with the new closeness. It was a silly game, yes, but it was also a way they had found each other, a way to share a little piece of themselves in a public place. There was a quiet intimacy to it, like two friends sharing a secret joke without anyone else knowing. He looked at the green book again, still patiently waiting on the shelf. It seemed to wink at him, as if saying, "See, I knew this would be interesting." Nathan chuckled softly, a sound that barely broke the silence. He looked back at Chris, whose eyes were still fixed on him, full of warmth and a hint of continued mischief. The game was definitely still on, but now was a different game, a softer one. It was a game of shared smiles and silent understanding, and Nathan was very happy to keep playing. The air around Nathan and Chris still hummed with that soft, warm feeling, a quiet bubble in the bustling bookstore. Nathan was perfectly content to stay in this delightful pause, just enjoying Chris's close presence and the unspoken understanding between them. Then, slowly, Chris's eyes crinkled at the corners, and a small, mischievous glint appeared. He gave Nathan a quick, gentle wink. It was a tiny gesture, but it sent another flutter through Nathan's chest. It was a sign that Chris was still playing, but also a hint that their game was about to change again. After the wink, Chris slowly, almost lazily, began to move. It wasn't a sudden jump or a rushed sidestep. It was a smooth, unhurried shift like a slow dance. He took one step back, then another, easing himself away from the shelf where the green book waited. His movements were fluid and graceful, making it seem less like he was getting out of the way and more like he was simply completing a natural motion. He still kept his gaze on Nathan, his smile soft and inviting. As Chris stepped fully aside, a small pathway opened up to the Secret Gardens book. The light seemed to fall directly on it now, as if welcoming Nathan. Chris gestured with his free hand, the one not holding the history book, a small, sweeping motion towards a shelf. It was a silent, elegant surrender, but still with that playful twinkle in his eyes. "There you go, adventurer," Chris murmured, his voice a low, warm sound. "Your quest is complete." Nathan smiled, a little wider than before. He felt a gentle rush of happiness. It was a sweet ending to their unexpected game. He moved forward, his hand reaching for the green book. His fingers brushed against the cool spine, and he carefully pulled it from the shelf. He held it for a moment, admiring the delicate illustrations, but his attention quickly returned to Chris. Chris was still standing there, a few feet away now, watching Nathan with that same warm, knowing smile. He had effectively moved, allowing Nathan to get his book, but he hadn't left. He was still present, still engaged in their quiet connection. Nathan felt a strong urge to keep the conversation going, to extend this lovely, unexpected encounter. He didn't want the spell to break. He clutched the book gently, feeling its weight in his hand, a tangible reminder of this delightful moment. Nathan held the green book in his hand, its cover smooth beneath his fingers. He looked at Chris, whose gentle smile was still fixed on him. A wave of happiness washed over Nathan, a quiet, peaceful joy that settled deep in his heart. This wasn't just about getting a book anymore. It was about the unexpected adventure he'd found with Chris. "Thank you," Nathan said, his voice soft, almost a whisper. He meant it not just for the book, but for the whole playful, warm experience. Chris nodded, his eyes twinkling. "You're very welcome," he replied, his voice equally soft. He finally shifted the history book to under his arm, freeing a hand. He didn't offer it for a handshake, but rather, he simply clasped his hands loosely in front of him, as if settling in for a comfortable chat. The quiet connection between them felt stronger than any loud conversation. It was a thread woven from shared smiles, unspoken challenges, and the sweet surprise of finding comfort in an unexpected place. Nathan felt a sense of belonging, as if this corner of the quiet corner bookstore was meant for them to share, even for just a little while. He gently tucked the Secret Gardens book under his arm, making sure it was safe. He still wanted to read it, but the urge to leave quickly had completely faded. He wanted to savor this moment, this nice feeling with Chris. The soft light from the window made Chris's hair glow, and Nathan found himself still admiring the details he'd noticed earlier. The faint scar, the kind eyes. Secret Gardens, Nathan mused aloud, looking at the book's cover again, then back at Chris. They always hide the best stories, don't they? Chris's smile deepened. They do, he agreed. And sometimes, he added, his voice even softer, the most interesting stories aren't always found within the pages. He glanced around the peaceful bookstore, then back at Nathan, a meaningful look in his eyes. Nathan felt another warm flush, a happy one. He knew exactly what Chris meant. The story unfolding between them, in this quiet public place, was far more captivating than any printed words. He grinned, feeling a spark of courage. Perhaps, Nathan said, taking a small, brave step closer to Chris, mirroring Chris's earlier unexpected move. Perhaps we should find a quiet corner to discuss those stories. Chris's smile widened, turning into a bright, genuine laugh that was still gentle enough not to disturb the other readers. He nodded slowly, his eyes full of warmth and a promise of more shared moments. I think that's an excellent idea, Nathan. And just like that, Nathan knew Chris knew his name, adding another layer of intimacy to their charming encounter. The bookstore, with its soft light and quiet hum, suddenly felt like the beginning of a brand new adventure.